Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Ben Backus.
And I'm Kevin Paulin, and welcome to the Falling Up Podcast, where we have conversations about turning obstacles into opportunities. And on today's show, we have the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Leighton Johnson.
Leighton shares with us his experience incarcerated and specifically in solitary confinement and the work that has stemmed from, where he is an advocate to end solitary confinement and has done a lot of work in the communities working with youth and helping them seek alternative routes.
So without further ado, welcome to the Falling Up Podcast. So Leighton, thank you for coming on. I'm really excited about this. You know what I'm saying? We share a lot of the same rooms in terms of the things that you into, things I'm into, things that Ben's into. Yep. So, I just want to go straight into it, because I know your story powerful. And I know we met through the whole Stop Solitary thing and that whole movement. So I want to go back to where it started from, how we got to Stop Solitary, everything in between, and where you at now.
Okay. Yeah. So I gotta rewind and go back to what you got on your shirt right now. Emerge. Shout out to Emerge. Emerge CT made a real big impact on my life. Like everything that happened after Emerge was, directly because of Emerge, because New Haven is really small. Right. And Emerge is connected to so many different platforms and people, and they give you the resources and the connections. So let me rewind. Before I got to Emerge, I spent 10 and a half years in prison. So that's the solitary piece, because I spent about 5 years in solitary confinement. Excuse me. This is going to be edited.
Yeah, no, but you're good, though. Yeah. He said, You heard it?
I was trying to clear my throat. Yeah. All right. So, I spent about 5 years in solitary confinement. And so that's how I got eventually connected to Stop Solitary CT. But when I came home, my mom had been telling me for a long time about Emerge. She actually sent my father there. My father spent 27 years in prison. He did his time in New York, originally from New York. So, but when he came out here, he was with my mom, and she was telling him to go to Emerge, because Emerge gets you not only paid training, but they give you the skills that you need to navigate through this world out here, like the social emotional learning and emotional intelligence and fatherhood programs and a whole bunch of different programs that they got that helps you. But my father still wasn't emotionally intelligent, right? So I know you know Dan, you know Pa, right?
Okay. Yep.
So you know how Pa is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, you never met Dan.
Never met Dan, right?
Yeah, never met Dan. Yeah, he know Alden.
Now, shout out to Dan, right?
Yeah.
But I'm used to people like Dan.
Yeah.
I grew up like
I was
people
like Dan. Yeah.
Exactly. I grew up with people like Dan in New York my whole life, right? Yeah. And I know how to deal with people like him, right? Not to say that it always was good, because we bumped heads crazy a lot of times. And just to sum it up, Dan is really fucking I could curse.
Hell yeah.
Real fucking passionate, and
absolutely. And
he don't hold his tongue, and he goes on these rants, and sometimes he'll throw some shit off the table and, right?
Yeah,
to get his point across. But it's because he really cares.
Yes.
Right? If he didn't care, he wouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it may seem like he's coming for you. And that's how I used to feel. So when my pops went there, he still came there with that mentality that you got to respect me, that street mentality, that who the fuck are you talking to type. So when he came there, he was like, nah, I can't do this shit. Right? When I came home, my mother was like, go over there and try it out. So I went over there, and initially I was like, yo, this shit is crazy in here. Like everybody, you have to be formally incarcerated to be in stop solitary in emerge, right? You have to be on probation or parole, and that's what makes you able to come there. But then the way he was, we bumped heads a lot, right?
Yeah.
And but I took the components that they was teaching. I actually took heed to them, to the emotional intelligence. Even though I took anger management several times when I was locked up, and
it's a little different when you're home.
It's different when you're home, and you gotta really implement them at work. You gotta implement them in the street. You gotta like take off that tough exterior. You can't just be tough all the damn time. Like, come on, like. At some point, you got to just be a regular dude, and you got to know how to control your emotions and things of that nature, right? So, not besides that, I learned a lot of skills there, and actually, I graduated in 2019, right? Or 18, the end of 2018. But they gave me the plug to go to work for the city, Parks and Rec.
Okay.
So that's where the journey started to begin. Because sometimes when you work for Emerge, sometimes you'll have days when you
no work. Yeah.
You get no work.
Yeah. Yep.
No work, right? And that's the test, though. That's the test right there to see, are you going to continue this? Are you in this for the money? You need money. Everybody needs money. We got to pay bills. Shit ain't going to stop. The bill's not going to stop just because... Like the bill's still gonna come, but you have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep trudging regardless, right? So that's the test, and that's why Dan always tells you this program is not just a program to come get a check. It's about working on yourself, right? So you gotta really immerse yourself in the programming, and then the money's gonna come, and these opportunities are gonna come, and that's the message he was trying to drill in us. And sometimes it would go over our head, but I really took heed to that. Went to Parks and Rec. That's when it just started to come. I started getting so many different opportunities after that. I worked everywhere. I was a chef downtown, New Haven. I worked on a farm with plants. Then eventually, Alden told me about Stop Solitary CT, actually. And he was like, well, you got experience in solitary confinement. And I've been had a connection with Yale. Since 2010, I've had the connection with the Human Rights Clinic out of Yale. And that's because when I was in Northern CI, which is a Supermax facility, I was reaching out to organizations. I was getting addresses and writing people to try to see who could help me fight this beast, this monster of solitary confinement, where you feel like your whole world, you feel buried alive. Yeah. Right? In this place.
Can you break down what solitary confinement is for the listeners and try to just paint a picture of what that is like?
Solitary confinement is, like I said, like being buried alive. It's a place where they place you in, most of the time it's a cell with nothing in there but a toilet and a bed, or sometimes you may even be double bunked. Just because you hear solitary confinement doesn't specifically mean that you're going to be in there by yourself. Right. You can have a cellmate, and you can still be experiencing what solitary confinement is, which is being locked in your cell 23, sometimes 24 hours a day. Actually, the United Nations said anything above 16 hours inside of a cell constitutes torture, and that's considered solitary confinement. And Connecticut has a practice of doing that for a lot of the times, not even for any punitive reasons. That's just their regular practice of having people locked in their cells, like Cheshire and certain prisons where certain blocks, you're just locked in your cell all day. Not because you did anything wrong, but that's just all day. And then if you get in trouble, then you could go to SAG, administrative segregation, the gang block. These are all different names SHU, RHU, they're all different names for the same thing. It's solitary confinement. You're stripped of human contact. It's just a place that's like, I think it has no like redeeming value or purposes at all. Actually, it's detrimental.
Again, by definition, it is detrimental, right? Like, it is the highest form of torture is be alone.
Yes.
Be alone.
Yep.
With you. I mean, it's so hard because I think so many individuals, including myself, who have no reference points to understand that, except for, hey, have you ever spent a day completely alone doing nothing? And like by the end of the day, I know for myself that's crawling out of my skin. And this was 5 years for you, which is remarkable torture.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this experience sounds like really fueled this passion to not only advocate for yourself, but for all individuals who are going through this experience.
Absolutely. You summed it up correctly. When I was inside, I vowed to never stop fighting the injustice system. And I might be fast forwarding, so I know you want to get to that point, but even to the work that I do now is trying to do preventative measures so that, you know, the youth that I work with could never get to that point of even experiencing that. Pre-entry. Right.
So while you were in solitary confinement, that's when you started reaching out to Yale and some of these other resources. And what was that? What was the process? What was that? Was it, hey, I'm trying to, what did that look like?
I wrote a letter. I should have brought the letter with me, actually. I still have it. I wrote a letter in 2010. I had been in Northern at the time for, I think, 2 years. 2008. 2 years. And I wrote them a detailed letter, like pleading, explaining the experiences that I was dealing with, like the extreme cold air, the abuse from the officers. At this time, 2008 was they had a team of officers that we called the Black Glove Crew, where they would put on these black gloves, right? And they would like actively seek out people to come whoop ass, right? And they would target the people who are the people who have mental health issues, the people who are like the most vulnerable,
weren't able to advocate for themselves,
right? Because they was using Northern as a so-called supposed to be for the worst of the worst, which is not true. This was a place where they was housing people for space, right? It's a documentary called The Worst of the Worst. And in that documentary, the former warden and the commissioner actually admitted to that they was just using this place for space. So they was placing people in there who had mental health issues already when they went there, like a mental health number 5, which is the highest. And this is not a behavior issue. This is a mental issue. So they need psychiatric treatment. They don't need to be placed in a place where it makes it worse and exacerbates it. Right. And then you punish them for exhibiting what they're dealing with mentally, right? And they would target these people, and they would just like actively go around antagonizing people, running up in people's cells, beating people's asses, sicking dogs on people. Like, you could catch a ticket for anything, and every time you catch a ticket, it increases your time. So some people may go there for just having 4 tickets for some miscellaneous bullshit, disobeying a direct order, let's say, or having a fight and 3 different disobeying direct orders. Now you go to Northern. When you're in there, you got to go through the program, but they have things like reckless eyeballing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Reckless eyeballing. I'm taught as a man to look a man in his eyes
every time,
right? Yeah. That's what I was taught. It's a sign of respect. So if I look at a CO and he's intimidated by me, he's intimidated by me because of my aura, the way I carry myself, some of his biases about black people. It's a lot of things, right? and I look at him a certain way, or I just look at him and I don't put my eyes down or like that, I've gotten a ticket for that.
Yeah.
And that,
don't let it be a female officer. Whoo! Because that's why you used to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at female officer too long or something.
What are you looking at? Write your ticket.
Yeah.
Now you start all over.
Yeah.
And this is how people end up in Northern for years and years, because they keep catching these tickets and they're never able to get out of the place. So I know you got another question. I wrote them a letter, the Human Rights Clinic, Yale Law School, and I got a response back from Hope Metcalf, who's the supervising attorney and a professor at the I'm about to say the prison, at the school. And she told me that they was already actively investigating Northern. They was sending Yale law students up there to see about the conditions, right? And I was like, wow. I'm like, because I felt like I thought nobody knew in the world about what we was experiencing. I'm like, this got to be, I felt like I was on another planet, bro. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm like, does anybody know what's going on in this place? Like, what the? So they wrote me back. They started to send Yale law students to me and other, prisoners, because I never used the word inmate. Never. And other prisoners, other incarcerated people. And that's when the ball started to roll. We was working with the ACLU. Shout out to David McGuire and other organizations who was trying to fight the inhumane conditions.
So you was fighting before you even came home.
From the belly of the beast. And that's from reading those books like George Jackson and all the revolutionary people who I changed my mind state from I can't fight this beast physically. We're gonna lose, right? I can fight COs and all that other shit, but at the end of the day, first of all, they've broken most of the people, most of the spirits of the fighters inside. And when I say fighters, I don't mean physically. I mean fight the system using your rights. They've broken a lot of people. So then, if I'm fighting physically and everybody else like, man, I ain't doing nothing, I'm trying to get commissary.
Yeah, lose.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Right. So you basically learned, like, hey, we're playing chess right now.
Yep.
I'm starting to map this out, figure out how my actions can be most useful.
Absolutely. And so that's where it began. And so that connection is where Alden, I just had a brain fart. Alden connected me with Stop Solitary CT. And because I was going to say we, but I'm no longer with them, but they work with Yale. And, the Yale law students is really important, with the work.
Got you. So take us through the experience of, not specifically just Stop Solitary, but just the experience of the protests, the rallies, the legislation. Because I know and Ben knows, I did the testimony for
the Protect Act.
Right. So I did that. So let's talk about that real quick, because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people that listen to us really don't know what that looks like to fight this fight. You know what I'm saying?
Well, actually, like I said, the fight never stops.
Right.
So just because I'm not with the organization doesn't mean I don't still support.
Yeah.
So actually, tomorrow they actually have a protest tomorrow. Not a protest, actually a rally.
Okay.
At the Capitol, and this is to start the legislative session, right. And to reintroduce the Protect Act. The Protect Act is a piece of legislation that we all worked on with the Yale Law students clinic and the committee members of Stop Solitary CT and the steering committee, and we drafted the Protect Act, which ensures that solitary confinement can't be used for, it has to be the most serious reason where they use solitary confinement. Because what we're not saying is that there shouldn't be no accountability for actions. even myself, when I was inside, I looked at it like at some point I needed to be, held accountable for my actions, but I needed to also be treated like a human being.
Right.
I needed to learn from the experience so that I won't do it again. I didn't need to be placed in a place that's gonna make me worse and detriment my mental capacities. So
yeah, again, what you're saying is I need a level of actual rehabilitation where I'm learning, going back to what Emerge was able to provide with the emotional intelligence and some of the impulse and anger control, right? Like that is actual rehabilitation. Whereas doing something that on the best case scenario is going to give someone probably less skills than they had before, right? Like on a good day, that's going to give me less skills.
Less skills.
On a bad day, that's going to absolutely crush my sanity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you just clarify that the rally is on the 9th, so people aren't going?
Right.
This is probably come out next week.
Okay, so the rally, the Stop Solitary CT rally is February 9th, Wednesday, February 9th. And I believe it's around 11, don't quote me, right? Around 11 at the Capitol in Hartford. So, and like I said, that's to kick off the legislative session. That's because last year, all the work that we put in, all those rallies and protests and testimonies and legislative session and the judicial hearings and everything, and the pressure that we put on Governor Lamont.
Yep.
What's the word? I just had a brain fart. Damn. What's the word?
When he was wilding and lying.
Yeah, he lied. But
Yeah.
what's the damn word?
I don't know, but I know he was lying.
The veto. He vetoed.
There we go. Veto.
He vetoed the bill that we introduced. We got through all levels of the judicial system and they approved it. But then he agreed to sign the bill.
Yeah.
We have him on camera.
Yeah, I'm about to say that.
Saying
It
that
went viral. It went viral. Yeah.
that he was going to sign the bill, and then he vetoed it and put in a so-called executive order, which isn't law and it's not binding. His executive order is not being adhered to by the Department of Corrections. They're not following his so-called executive order, and that was to fool the public though, because the public looks at it, they're like, oh, he's doing something great. He said that solitary can't be used. He put an executive order. The people who don't know how things work, the general public thinks that he did a good job. And then he also closed Northern from the pressure that we put on. So this place that I was talking about is actually closed now, right? But what they did is they started to move these same practices to other prisons. And that's what they do. They move the problem around. And that's what the PROTECT Act would ensure, that there's accountability, and it would ensure that there's some type of I keep having a brain fart.
Nah, you
You
good.
can edit the shit out of this joint. What the hell? Yo, accountability, and I can't even think of it right now. But it's gonna ensure that they're held accountable for their actions.
Right.
Right.
So both sides. So the prisoners are held with accountability, like you said, if it's an extreme measure.
Extreme measure.
And then if the COs or wardens or whatever use solitary confinement as a form of punishment, I guess, is only in extreme circumstances. So they're held accountable. They just use it just because they lazy. Because I know from my experience, I was down in Jersey, and I was in a prison that was always locked down, and it was just easier for them to control the unit if we ain't going out the cells.
Right.
So it's more of just a matter of being lazy rather than finding alternative strategies to help and assist the rehabilitation. Like, that's not the goal.
That's definitely not the goal.
That's not the goal of the system. And I'm on our last show, I was saying, like, the system works perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying? It does what it's supposed to do.
Exactly.
And people, for some reason, think we're supposed to fix something that's broken, but it ain't broken.
Right.
It's working perfectly fine.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? And COs be playing poker or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And we locked in just because they feel like it. You know what I'm saying? And they don't give a shit the punish or the trauma that we're experiencing. They don't give a shit about none of that. You know what I'm saying?
Not to cut you off, but I remember what I was trying to say now.
No, cool. Yeah, it's good.
Oversight. Oversight. Independent oversight. Not oversight that's within the Department of Corrections. And that's another thing that
I see what you're saying.
I was fighting that when I was inside. I wrote grievances about we need, because the administrative grievance procedure is flawed and it's only in favor of the Department of Corrections. No matter what grievance you put in, you're not going to win. You're not going to get no redress. They're going to deny you, right? And that's because the people who are overseeing the grievance procedure works for the Department of Corrections. So why would they grant your grievance and say that you can get some type of redress? If it's people that's independent of the Department of Corrections, then you could probably get some better results.
Absolutely.
And that's another part of the Protect Act.
That's a big part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when accountability happened. Yeah.
Yeah, what is so, again, inspiring about both of you guys, right? Like, you have really used your experience to not settle and to keep pushing and trying to move. And I'm sitting here and I'm hearing everything you're saying, and I'm just like, fuck. In a sense, it's so demoralizing, right?
Right.
But the reality is you're moving the needle.
Yeah.
Even if it's slow, if you don't do it, who's going to do it?
Right.
And it's a truly, it's an inspiring thing. And I mean it when I say that I'm grateful that there's people like you who are willing to put in the work to fight for something that they truly believe in, whether it's from your experiences or just, hey, this is just something that is completely wrong and we can do better. Mm-hmm. As humans, we can do better.
Right.
And another piece I think that is really important, right, is, hey, we're not going to override and just completely change the system, but we can give people the skills to be able to live within the bullshit that we have in place, right? And I think going back to a place like Emerge, where you were able to learn some of those real life skills, to, right, when there's the difference between being able to intellectualize something and actually feel it and apply it, right? If we're talking about anger management, I can intellectually understand how to control my anger, right? But when that opportunity hits me and that beast comes out, what does it really mean? So I know we're running low on time, but I just wanted to touch on what emotional intelligence means to you and how you've been able to apply those skills in your life in real time. Because I think not only is that something that I could always improve on, but I think so many of our listeners really struggle at that.
Well, first of all, is understanding yourself. You got to know yourself. You got to know what your triggers are. You got to know what it is that gets you to that point. You got to be able to avoid certain things also, right? Avoidance is a big part of it. Even avoiding your feelings, understanding what your feeling is and how you usually react to it. I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in the projects. I grew up dealing with things violently when I was younger. I reacted with violence. Fighting was how we grew up, right? Or arguing, or because that's what I saw. That's what I saw in my neighborhood. That's what I saw in the building on the block. And so we implement things that we see. So we mimic things that we see, right? So because I know that and I know what my past is and I know triggers, I know what things, respect is one of the main things that, we try to attack, because if you don't respect me, I got to show you that you have to respect me, right? But there's ways that I could show you that I need to be respected without arguing with you, without fighting you, without, you know what I mean? Or losing my cool. I got to understand myself first, every part of me. And that's emotional intelligence. I know what my triggers are, and I know what to avoid, and I know when I'm getting to a point of, you know what, this night, and I got to also know, is it worth it?
Right.
Is it worth it for me to engage in this? What's the repercussions? And that's what I speak to the youth about. What's the repercussions? Yeah, you could go shoot up the block. You could go do whatever you want to do, right? But what's the repercussions after that, bro? They might say, yeah, he a shooter. He get it in, right? But what's the repercussions, bro? And even how you feel after that. Because I don't even like being angry no more. I don't even like how I feel no more when I'm angry, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, just the feeling, it drains you. It takes away, because everything's about energy.
There you go.
So the energy that you put out, it takes away from you, because you put, and that's why you got to put your energy in the right places.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no doubt. That's a great answer.
It is a great answer, and it has certainly, I would imagine, taken time to really evolve to this place.
Absolutely.
And something that I know I'm often guilty of doing to myself is, if I'm not perfect all the time, I can just beat up on that. And to be able to have some patience, and it's kind of like the saying, 9 miles in, 9 miles out, right? If I walk 9 miles into the woods, I got to turn around. The only way out is 9 miles back. I can't walk 3 miles back out of the woods and think I'm out, right? Yeah. So if I've been doing something for 5 years, or acting as kind of my natural response is being really angry or whatever, to think that all of a sudden in a year I'm going to be perfect, not realistic. So having that patience and learning the self-love and like you said, being able to recognize triggers and things of that nature can be so incredibly important. So I know we got to wrap up, but I'd love for you to have the opportunity. You recently founded a company.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
I'm repping it, Black Seed Royal. The name of my company is Voices of Legacy, LLC. But the clothing line. The clothing line is Black Seed Royal. I came up with Voices of Legacy because of the work that I was doing that people needed, because my voice was quelled for so long, right? And I said that I needed the people behind the walls, and people who's dealing with oppression and struggle and pain. They need a voice, right? So that's why I came up with the voices and the legacies, that I need to leave a lasting legacy that's different than what my past was. And that's why I'm doing so much positive and community work and, activism and things like that, because that's the legacy that I want to leave. I don't want to leave what my past is not me. That's what I went through, but this is what I'm doing now.
Right.
So that's why I came up with that. And Black Seed Royal was just basically empowering Black people, all people, but Black people, because Black people, a lot of it have been trodden on and beat down in this country forever. Absolutely. And to the point where we don't even understand that we didn't just start from slavery. That's not where we started. We was kings and queens and royalty, and we still are. Even if we whatever we doing in whatever we're going through, we just don't understand who we are. So that's why I came up with Black Seed Royal. Plus, shout out to Black Seed Oil.
Yeah. The wordplay.
Yeah. Shout out to Black Seed Oil, which is great for it has so much good benefits. And I think the benefits of your thought process could have the same kind of results. And that's what I want to change, how we think about ourselves. So Black Seed Royal, we got hoodies, hats.
You got a website?
I got a website, voicesoflegacy.com.
Right.
I'm also now doing skincare products and candles, and I'm into soaps and all that stuff too, bro. Because I found
you got the oils?
I got the Black Seed Oil.
Well, any oil smell good?
Yeah, I got smell good oils. I got oils.
Yeah, I need that.
Yeah, I got all of that.
Yeah, I need that.
And but I got to plug real quick. Ice to Beef. That's the organization that I'm with now. Ice to Beef is an anti-violence organization in New Haven. Also Waterbury, and now we're about to expand into Torrington and New Britain and all different places throughout Connecticut. And we work with the Board of Ed, we work with the United Way, and we work directly with outreach and mentoring with the youth. So we're trying to steer them away from the paths that we took, because there's two places that they're gonna end up if they take that road. And so I already been in one of those places. The other place I'm trying to avoid myself as well as them from going into that grave from their own doing.
No doubt.
So.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you, bro.
yeah, I appreciate you, the work that you've done and continue to
Got
do.
me sweating.
Yeah, the
lights get hot. The lights get
Got
hot.
you, bro.
Word.
But yeah, we appreciate you, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Falling Up Podcast.
Falling Up Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.